All right, standard 17. This was our standard about the Great Depression. So we talked about the causes of the Great Depression itself, and then the economic impact that that had, and the social impact that it had as well on the United States. So the causes, we said overproduction. So the false idea that there would be continued growth, or that trend of growth would just continue, almost like it was is unending. Which we can look back on that and be like, well, there's series of peaks and troughs, all historically. Why would they think it was unending? But the perception in the 1920s of the Roaring Twenties and things going so well was that if you want to be able to have everything ready for people to purchase, you got to make sure you have enough, and that whole supply and demand balance that's can kind of be fine tuned, and you got to figure out when to have enough supply when people are wanting it, and also be able to know when maybe the view of, okay, well, I really want that, starts to decline. Then you had underconsumption, so the connection between the automobile industry is the example we gave, where we talked about how the automobile industry was connected to the steel industry and the textile industry and the oil industry, and how when there was a slight decline in the oil industry, that also was a decline in some of the other industries that were connected. And when that happens, the employers then have to decide, are we going to have to let people go, or are we going to pay people less, or well, either way we've got to cut back. And so then that would mean there's less people at work, and that cycle just sort of continues. And all that is just, it's kind of climaxed with the stock market crash of 1929. And we mentioned the runs on the bank, and how there was bank failures, and over 9,000 of them. So all that was just sort of the perfect storm that created the Great Depression. Speaking of perfect storm, the Dust Bowl. The Dust Bowl, we mentioned um, the overuse of the soil was kind of problematic initially, but then it was compounded by the drought, and then high winds came in and created the black blizzards, as we saw the picture of, just the huge storms that were basically engulfing entire towns, and how many people just decided, look, we can't grow here, this is enough, and moved west, many to California, and that's where we talked about the term Okies and all that. So then we mentioned socially how it's connected. Obviously, with a economic downturn, you're going to have a lot of unemployment, but we said up to as high as 25% unemployment, which is just astronomical. And the connection to the Hoovervilles, and how Hoovervilles, that was more or less just blaming Herbert Hoover for not doing anything to halt the Great Depression. We said, it's somewhat opinion whether that was justifiably so, whether or not he should have done something or shouldn't, based off of precedent set before him. But just socially and politically, it created just some serious need for hope, to say the least.